1, 2, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. In the place to be. In the place.
Mic check.
All right. Who are you, please?
I'm Yvette Katz. I live on West 11th Street and just got out of jail, basically spent the night there at 100 Center Street. It's kind of unpleasant. Met a ridiculous amount of characters, 19 women in a cell. It was kind of deplorable conditions, which I was astounded about. And, you know, it's all basically to bring the attention to the entire West Side that we need a West Side Emergency 1 Trauma Care Center now. And it's not just for the community and not just for the people who are involved in the community, but it's for the police, it's for the firemen, and it's for all the visitors who come to New York. And it's just inconceivable to me that there is no hospital, a Trauma 1 hospital anymore on the west side of Manhattan from 59th Street down to Battery Park. So it was worth being arrested for criminal trespass at St. Vincent's, right down the street from where I live, for like 25 years. And I'm glad that I did it. And I hope that other mothers and children in the community, you know, pay attention, because my kids' lives were saved in that hospital. Family died in the hospital over the years. Many, many friends, children were born there, and it's a worthwhile venture to save that infrastructure, save the hospital for the community. It is for the public. The hospital is to serve the public. It should have never been closed. This was all about Continuum Partners realigning their pockets with a lot of money, and it was about Richard F. Daines making decisions that he should not have made in reference to the purchase of Mount Sinai. Mount Sinai should have had the opportunity to purchase that hospital. It would have been incredibly successful. It is in one of the most wealthiest and wonderful communities probably in the world, in Greenwich Village, filled with creative and articulate people, all walks of life, all nationalities. And the community needs to be preserved, the building needs to be preserved, and we need an emergency 1 trauma care hospital now.
Could you explain what landlocked means?
Landlocked is not necessarily a legal term, but it's a term that just
It's a political term?
It probably is a political term that just states that we want that hospital and the zoning to remain exclusively for a hospital and nothing more. And it needs to remain there because of the infrastructure and the 4 sub-basements and where all the gases go and where all the electrical wires go that allow us to have a hospital in the community that it's been in for 168 years.
Will that protect it from real estate development if there's a landlock put on it with the zoning?
I would hope that that would be the case. Yes, that's what I think the community wants. Certainly there's not one person, not one police officer that I've met in this building or on my way in lockup at the 6th precinct who didn't agree with us having a West Side Hospital, or anybody in the community at any community board meetings whatsoever. It's always like a 99% ratio. There might be one person who doesn't want a West Village Hospital. I don't know. They must be
Who's
depressed.
your city council person?
The city council person is Christine Quinn.
Have you reached out to her?
Of course I've reached out to her. I know Christine Quinn. I've definitely worked with her over the years, and she's done a lot of good things in the community over the years, and this is not one of them. This is not a good decision.
Thank you.
For those of who may not be aware, what exactly happened yesterday? Can you step up, please?
Yeah, we
And identify your group.
we're with a group called Hands Off St. Vincents, and we basically did a sit-in in the lobby of St. Vincent's Hospital, and we had masks on. We had masks on representing different politicians, both on the local in state and federal levels who have failed us in the initiative to get a new hospital opened in the complex that was St. Vincent's Hospital. We basically were doing our form of a citizen's arrest of those politicians who have given a lot of lip service over the past several months, but have not taken any tangible steps for real action to create a new hospital at that facility.
Well, explain how you were arrested and
So we were
or the whole action. As a matter.
Sure. Well, we were in the just the lobby area there of the hospital.
Did a script.
We had a script that we were reading basically that went through a lot of the history really of what's been happening and all the different politicians and different folks that have been behind the demise of St. Vincent's and the stall tactics that have caused us to have to escalate the fight to this point. And then after a while, we 4 of us were arrested, and we were brought down to precinct 6. Sixth precinct, actually, those police officers, they knew exactly what we were there fighting for. You know, they're the ones that if they have a gunshot wound or if they have a stabbing among their own officers, that's the hospital that they would go to. And people don't realize that there's a massive difference between a level 1 trauma center and an emergency room. And then there's also a huge, vast difference between an emergency room and what are called urgent care centers, which is really a misnomer. And what a lot of our politicians are starting to talk about is putting in urgent care centers in place of what we had with St. Vincent's, which was a level 1 trauma center. I mean, level 1 trauma center means you have 15 to 20 specialists on call available when you need them. So if a police officer is shot, God forbid, they in the 6th precinct, that's where they would go. Now they can't go there. Now police officers, along with everybody else, and people are. There are cases now where people have died. So we ended up going to the 6th precinct and then brought down here to central booking, and we spent the night in jail for the cause that we believe in. That we're not going away. We're here until we have a hospital equivalent to services that St. Vincent's provided, and every politician is being held accountable. And as much scrambling as they might want to do right now, it doesn't mean a thing. Until they're doing action to actually bring about a new hospital, they will continue to be held accountable for their shortcomings.
And there needs to be more transparency in reference to the entire bankruptcy proceeding that's taken place and why there has not been an audit at the hospital and why financials have not been revealed, because clearly there was monies from the state, city, and federal government that have disappeared. And I would think that if I was responsible for taking any of those monies, my tush would be in jail. I want to know who's going to be held accountable for all of those monies that were stolen, that caused the fall of this hospital. And I want to know what's going on with the bankruptcy court and at what stage C.B. Richard Ellis is at. They have been assigned the task of perhaps selling these properties, and certainly we don't want one of those properties sold. And if the property is sold, we want to make sure the zoning for the hospital remains a hospital for the public, and that's all it should be.
What would you say to people who say that these are rather extreme actions that you're taking?
Do you mind if I take that? Because I want to read a quote that speaks to that. It is, and often governments are the last people who will ever tell the truth. And the way the truth often gets ripped out of government is by public citizens all over the world standing up and demanding it. And public citizens doing it day after day, week after week, month after month, and year after year. And that quote is from City Council Speaker Christine Quinn.
That was last week, wasn't it?
That was last week at the David Cato Vigil, and I agree with her, and that's what we did today. And that's what I hope our community will continue to do until we get this hospital back.
And we hope the community, at this point, we hope the community is inspired, to stand up and to take back their hospital. I think there are a lot of people who think, this is a done deal. There's nothing we can do. Of course there's something you can do. First of all, it's Greenwich Village. First of all, it's the West Side, and united we stand. And the more voices we have, the better able we will be to capture back a hospital, a West Side hospital for the community. And we have a different health commissioner, and it's a big shout out to the new health commissioner to really take charge here and hear what's going on in the public who is paying the taxes to pay everybody's salaries here, because we rate, and we're important, and our survival is important, and our children's lives are important, and certainly the police and firemen and everybody who lives in the community with us.
Can you tell us what would happen if a child down below Houston Street started turning blue from choking? Where would they go right now, that child?
I have no clue, but I will tell you 2 days after the hospital closed, I had chest pains and I had to go to Beth Israel by cab at 4:30 in the morning, and the cab driver did not know where the emergency entrance was. I was dropped off on the wrong side of First Avenue, and I was numb and I had chest pains, probably from the hospital closing because of the stress that was going on in the West Village community. And by the way, that stress continues to happen in the West Village community with 50 or so businesses closing and in jeopardy right now as a result of that hospital closing. But they didn't know where to take me. Every cab driver, every police officer knows St. Vincents. You go to St. Vincents, everyone knows where to go. Nobody really knows where to go anymore. The urgent care is ridiculous. It doesn't really matter. It's like going to a doctor's office 24/7.
Someone has referred to it as a boo-boo center where you cut your finger or fall down, but legally they're not allowed to do anything.
Legally they're not allowed to do anything. If anybody gets hurt, hypothetically, in Chelsea Piers, there's a lot of athletes over there. They land on their head. There's nobody there to do any kind of MRIs or to check out any kind of brain injuries. I mean, you're going to end up going to urgent care and then going to find an emergency care center at St. Luke's, or another part of the city. Whereas, St. Vincent's covered everything. There were teams and teams of doctors in areas of specializations in cardiac care, in child care, pediatric care. And also, let's not forget the gay community, certainly on the west side. I mean, I've been living here a long time. This is one of the most welcoming hospitals, and the hospitals that really was the hospital that started AZT testing for all of my friends in the neighborhood.
Its AIDS care was remarkable in the city.
Absolutely. Very, very, very nurturing, caring, and welcoming hospital.
Mel, do you have anything to say why you participated?
I'm extremely happy to be
Identify yourself first.
Mel Stevens. I'm a member of Hands-Off St. Vincent's now, and I'm very pleased to be a member of the Fabulous Four that
we went to jail for the hospital.
that wants to show people that we have no advocates in our political life as far as the hospital goes, and this is the next step, and we're going to keep the pressure up. CD means civil disobedience. It's the only way people are going to get up and take notice.
The West Side needs to join us. The West Side needs to join us. Hell's Kitchen, Chelsea, Chinatown, everybody. West Village. Wake up, West Village. Come on.
Now, I'd like to ask you what you would like Christine Quinn, Tom Duane, Deborah Glick, who are the three representatives elected in the district at St. Vincent's. What do you want them to do that they haven't done?
Well, I would like to see them to put a definite lock on the healthcare designation that exists now. I'd like them to quickly, and they can do it quickly, is take the existing building, retrofit it, and give us a new hospital. The sooner the better. All I can do is, or say about those three people is all we've gotten from them is lip service and no action.
Why do you think it had to come to this stage?
It's a real estate, I'll feel that one for a minute, but the way I feel, it's a real estate boondoggle. There's a lot of money to be made from that complex if it's sold as real estate. And that's what drives the city. That's what drives Mayor Bloomberg. Christine Quinn wants to be mayor. Ergo, that's what's driving Christine Quinn. So it's the old New York story, real estate and money.
Anyone else want to talk about what they would like the elected officials to do that they haven't done?
Take action. Take action.
Take action.
Get the hospital back.
Take action. No more words.
No more words.
So we can all work. If they came to the table, we'd all work together. You'd all work together.
Absolutely.
I'd love to.
It's not just them. I think it's the new commissioner of health. I think the mayor, who has just also been obliviously invisible through all of this, needs to step up. I mean, let him make it the Bloomberg, West Village Trauma One Medical Center, and let him leave an heirloom to New York City. What a great idea that would be. And I think that, all the constituency just needs to be 100% forward on letting that hospital remain where it was. It was not closed in an appropriate manner. 30 days was irrelevant. The Labor Department is suing for $50 million. There's so much controversy surrounding the closure of this hospital that it's just unnecessary, and the public needs it. Public needs it.
One of the things that people don't
I have
realize.
To bow out. I'm just very tired.
Just one last question. The tourist industry has been very vital to the economy of New York City. And St. Vincent's Hospital not only served the residents of the West Side, but served all the tourist people that came into the city. And so you, in fact, represent villagers, and you represent all the people that might just happen to be in New York City when a tragedy would happen.
Absolutely. There was a young girl from, I believe, Korea. She was shopping at Ricky's on 11th Street and 6th Avenue. Something fell off a shelf and hit her on the head, and she started to bleed, and she clearly needed stitches. One of the shopkeepers ran across the street to Lynn's, which is the deli across the street, because she speaks Korean, and they did call for an ambulance, and this young girl was a Hunter College student. She didn't speak a lot of English, and it took 1 hour for an ambulance to get to her from Beth Israel. That's really not very far away, Beth Israel. It's just, across town from 6th Avenue and 11th Street. And she was shaking and nervous, going into a little bit of shock. And Lynn was just like beside herself. She goes, I can't believe it. If St. Vincent's was open, she would have been there. It would have been done. She would have had her stitches, and she could have had a hamburger on the corner.
So what are the next steps?
More actions. We meet every Thursday from 7 to 9 p.m. You can go to our website at handsoffstvincents.com, and we have our meeting information posted there. And join us. And the Coalition for a New Village Hospital is doing actions as well. They have a meeting coming up next week on the 16th.
16th of February
They've invited
at Hudson Guild.
At the Hudson Guild, and they've invited some of these politicians that have failed us to that meeting. And so that's a great place to, have some of these conversations. What are you doing? Stop talking and start doing.
There's something happening at Hunter?
At Hunter on February 23rd, we're doing a citizens needs assessment. Since there's a needs assessment delay tactic that's been out there, that Hunter College is actually overseeing and creating a needs assessment. What the healthcare needs of the West Village? What are they? Which is dumb because it's a new hospital, it's a trauma center. So we're doing our own needs assessment, and we're requesting we get 200 people, which is the same as the bogus needs assessment that's being done out of Hunter, to line up at the president's office of Hunter College, and we're going to deliver on whatever we can find. Do we need a hospital in the West Village? Yes or no? And of course, check yes. And people will put it on toilet paper, on cardboard, whatever, because it's worthless as whatever.
And lastly, what were you going to read yesterday? What were you reading? Did you read?
Script.
What did it sound like?
I don't have the script anymore. Do you have it? Yeah, I have it. Oh, the script was, well, there were pictures of the politicians, and we wore masks on our face, and then we had a gentleman in the role of being the patient, basically complaining about the injustices of what has happened and the history of what has happened with St. Vincent's, and basically, saying neglect, and holding them accountable to take action.